Hi again, John Florez here, and oh my goodness, I forgot a really important chapter in my Diary of a Record Producer series. It's a short one, it's 1980. I probably forgot it for Freudian reasons because I'd rather forget it in some sense, but here you go. This is kind of interesting, or at least it is to me. Okay, I had just returned from the worst year of my career ever in 1979 in Los Angeles, and I was in Phoenix, Arizona, again, my hometown. Pat McMahon, a legendary broadcaster, and previous to that, or contiguous with that, he was an award-winning, national award-winning program director of the year for radio, Top 40 radio, at KRIZ in Phoenix, Arizona. So Pat and I have been lifelong friends, and we had met several years prior. He broke Grazing in the Grass and was the only major station in the nation to play it. Thank you, Pat. And he's maybe the reason I have a record career at all because of that, with the Friends of Distinction's Grazing in the Grass. Okay, so here I am back home, licking my wounds from a very bad year in Los Angeles, where I got roughed up and kind of under-the-counter blackballed by my attorney, who was Helen Reddy's attorney as well, which is where it all started, the trouble started. Anyway, I'm back in Phoenix, and Pat McMahon calls, and he said, there's a very wealthy businessman who will go unnamed, who lives at the top of Camelback Mountain here in Phoenix, who has interest in a singer called Robin Powell. And Robin and her group Rocky Road were kind of legends at Mountain Shadows Resort in the lounge. And this very wealthy businessman wanted Pat's expertise and his contacts within the music industry, and he wanted me to come in and finish production of an album that had already been started by Billy Williams. Now, you may recognize the name Billy Williams because he's a fabulous musician and arranger and multiple talents. He went on to produce a lot of Lyle Lovett's albums, and I believe he even won a Grammy for one of those. So Billy had done the initial production on the lounge singer, Mountain Shadows lounge singer, Robin Powell. What he cut was mostly the kind of thing that she did in the lounge. And so I was brought in basically to cut three sides, which would be, quote, more commercial, quote, for radio. So I flew to LA, got my rhythm guys together, cut the rhythm tracks. Mark Creamer, who was an engineer at his own studio and a friend of mine for quite some time, Mark sang all the background vocals. He just doubled them and doubled them and doubled them. He sang all the parts, and he's exquisite. Then we got back to Phoenix. Frank Smith, my lifelong friend and former band member when I was growing up, played sax and did the sax solos on Robin's cuts, and he was absolutely tremendous as always. So we got these tracks ready, and Robin sang them. We recorded her vocals at Pantheon Recorders. We recorded Frank at Audio Recorders of Arizona, where I got my start in the music business, really. So the album was privately pressed by the wealthy man at the top of Camelback Mountain, and then the ball was passed to Pat McMahon for getting Robin a label deal. Well, this is where it gets really sticky, because as much as I admire Pat and just love him from the bottom of my heart, this is not what he does best. Because it was my industry I lived in for years, and I knew how business worked in the music business, and it just wasn't who you know, because the last thing that anybody in the music business wants is a new artist. For the most part, they're submitting hundreds and hundreds of artists each month, and they got plenty of them. So how do they make their deals? They make them through powerful managers, agents, attorneys, or some kind of personal trade, like, the rich man at the top of Mountain Shadows, living at the top of Mountain Shadows. My suggestion to him was, you go over there with Pat, meet with Pat's contacts, and offer him some sort of gold deal, because the guy at the top of Camelback Mountain owned a bunch of gold stores. And that would be something new and very interesting for a music industry executive, because they liked stuff like that. One of them told me that he needed a new foundation for his house. The foundation was cracking. If I could handle that, he would handle the label deal and the promotion. That's the way business was done. Okay, sometimes out and out cash, I was never involved in any of that. But I told Pat and the guy at Camelback Mountain, who was our backer, please don't mail these to your contacts, Pat, because none of these people will ever sign her based on mail-ins. So they're probably going to throw them out, frankly. You might get a kind of a cute little acknowledgement letter, but that's it. That is not the way business is done. It's got to be done in person and with a financial motivation for the music industry professionals that are your contacts. So Pat and the guy at the top of the mountain mailed, against my advice, the first batch of contacts Robin's album. And naturally, nothing happened. And I begged and pleaded with them not to do it again, because there was another half of the list of contacts to go. But they did it. They mailed it out again and got no results again. So as the final last-ditch effort, Pat contacted Lou Fields, who's a fabulous promotion man in Los Angeles, and asked what he could do for us. Well, the problem with that, which Pat wouldn't have known, is that Lou Fields was a legitimate, quote, clean, unquote, promoter. He, like my friend Harvey Cooper, did not resort to payola. So in a situation where we don't have a label deal and there seems to be no financial motivation involved, Lou Fields cannot help us because Lou Fields isn't part of what was called back then the network. And this is a group of guys, and I knew half of them maybe, who are now famous in nonfiction books and things like that for the real movers and shakers in the music industry that were behind the scenes. These are the promotion men that could make things happen, but they made things happen for bucks. So Lou Fields was really not an option because he was clean. And Lou Fields basically took his time and then couldn't help us. So the album was privately pressed, sent out to a few people, given out to people on the bandstand at Mountain Shadows where Robin and Rocky Road were performing. And like that, Robin and Jim Powell, her husband, they were just terrific. They were fun to work with. I got to use my LA musicians. I got to use Mark Creamer on backgrounds. I got to use Frank Smith on sax. I had tunes that I loved, and the productions I think are quite good. I really like them. The problem has been that there's no copy of them. Since it was a privately pressed album and only given out on the bandstand and to friends, I had to find on the web one person who had one copy in pristine shape, and I sent it to Eric Vanderwyck at King Tut Productions in San Diego, and he, as usual, has done a masterful job in pulling the vinyl onto pristine 24-bit WAV files. So I'm going to doctor them up a little, and I think you'll like the results. It'll at least be interesting to show you. So I will post those remasters shortly underneath this video, and you can tell me what you think. But what I'd like to do now to close out is two things. One, I'd like to show you what Billy Williams cut on the same album for Robin Powell, which was basically her lounge material. I'll give you examples of that, and then I'll give you brief examples of what I cut on her to try to take her a commercial radio route, so you can compare the approaches. Okay, that's part one. And part two, this is a teaser for my final video episode, haha, but I really believe it will be, where I will wrap up my 18 years in the music business and show you snippets chronologically of the artists that I did and brief portions of their songs. And it's kind of just a quick collage of my music business life. And then I'm going to sign up because I can't think of anything else to do unless I recover a couple more really obscure tracks that I don't think exist anymore. So the tease is there's a retrospective coming up, which may be my last video. Okay, you guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching and appreciate your input, your thoughts. Here are the examples of what Billy Williams cut for Robin Powell's album, and here in contrast are the portions of the cuts I did to try to commercialize her for radio. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
When I'm laying all alone in my bed at night, easy to see things aren't right, and I close my eyes and I see your face, and I know there's no one who could ever take your place. Your memory, the only thing that you left me was a memory, but I'd rather feel the pain that your memory brings than to never think about you at all. But I can't afford the cost of falling for you, so I hope you'll understand. I won't be making plans, 'cause I'm already taken by the ways of a man. The way he holds me when he knows he'll soon be gone. The way of understanding everything that's wrong. The way he lets me know